Okay, you're looking at N1H1. It's the original flu virus that caused the last great pandemic, the Spanish flu of 1918, which infected 50% of the world's population at the time, which was 1 billion people, and probably killed 1 out of every 10 people. But here's the interesting thing about it. It came in 3 waves, 3 different waves, pretty much about 6 months apart. And the second wave killed every single person who got the flu. And that is how bad flu can be. Now here we are in 2013, and in barnyards all over China, there are ducks and pigs and chickens in close proximity. And that's actually where influenza originates. Now, viruses have gotten so good at mutating, and in these barnyards mostly, that you and I have to get a flu shot every year to protect against this. Although I will tell you something interesting, less than half of the population in the United States does get a flu shot every year. But that is not what keeps the Centers for Disease Control up at night. What they worry about is something called a recombinant flu bug. And here's how it works. There are 2 kinds of viruses. There are viruses that infect animals, and animals pass them easily to other animals. And then there are viruses that infect humans, and they pass them easily to other humans. When a human has something like the Hong Kong flu, or in 2009, that H1N1 that came back, and they go to the market and they buy a chicken that happens to have one of these animal viruses, and they take it home and they don't cook it properly, and they eat it, they get the animal virus. And now inside that person are 2 kinds of viruses. A virus that transmits easily from human to human, and a virus that transmits easily from animal to animal. But in almost all cases, that animal virus is far more toxic and far more of a killer. Now, in just the last few weeks, a new very deadly animal flu called H7N9 has popped up. About 100 people are infected, a lot of them have died. And this is one that the CDC is really worried about. And we could be looking at another worldwide pandemic like the Spanish flu if a human being who has a human-type virus that transmits easily to people happens to eat one of these animals. Now, there are solutions to this, but we live in a very different world from 1918. There are 80,000 commercial jets that take off every day full of passengers. It would take a flu virus about 2 weeks to circle the globe. Private producers cannot make enough vaccine fast enough to save us. The only thing that we can do is what the Australian government has done, which is to create laboratories that are ready to go on a moment's notice to create vast quantities of flu virus. We should do this. Second, we need to make a simple dipstick test. You go to the drugstore, you buy a swab, you put it in your mouth. If it turns blue, you have the flu. How many times have you gone to the doctor? Do I have the flu? Do I have a bacterial infection? Half the time they don't even know. When a pandemic comes, you want to know if you have the flu, and you will not be able to find a doctor. Thirdly, we need to invest in a really good public health system. We've actually been firing about 50,000 public health workers in the last 3 years. 40 or 50 years ago, this country built thousands of bomb shelters because we thought nuclear war was a real threat. If we can do that, we can build a public health system that will take care of us in a pandemic.
The first understanding is that flu season comes every year. And I say, why is it related to the winter time? And it's an important reason to understand that the viruses that cause the flu generally function better at lower than body temperature. When we start breathing cold air in the winter, the respiratory tract gets cooler because of the cold temperature than the rest of the body. Well, this makes these cells in the respiratory system pretty prime for a viral infection, especially that works at lower temperatures. So flu seasons come when winter shows up, and then when winter goes away, the flu season disappears because that's not the best environment. Every year we have flu season. It's every year. I say, so what's so different about this year? And I say, The virus hasn't been around for years and years. It's relatively newly introduced into the human population. So most humans do not have an immunological memory to help alleviate the symptoms of the flu. So this year, the flu is a little more aggressive than previous years, only because most of us have not had an experience with this virus in the past. That's the nature of the game. Well, then here comes the problem. There are two protection systems. The immune system protects me on the inside. The adrenal system, which is called fight or flight, protects me from threats on the outside. I distribute energy in the body where I need the energy. And when it comes to threats and survival, if it's a threat from the outside world, I need to put all the energy into that. When we perceive a threat, the body releases stress hormones. So what happens when stress hormones are released in the body? And the first thing is this: all functions not related to running away from that tiger are shut down to conserve the energy. When you're in fear, you shut down the growth and maintenance of the body. We have to maintain our physiology and our health. You know, it's not that difficult. The number one thing is this: first of all, eat food that is good for you, not industrial farm, but organic, natural, healthy food. Industrial farm food is loaded with chemicals that influence our system in a very negative way. Taking care of your nutrition, number one, is important because we nourish our cells. And if you shorten the supply of nourishment, of course you're going to be open to sickness. Number two, take advantage of vitamins and supplements and things to support us because our food isn't that great, especially vitamin C. When we support ourselves that way, we strengthen the immune system. And then third thing, watch what you're thinking. Because the moment you are thinking of stressful things like, oh my God, I'm not working for weeks and my job, my salary, do I have any money? Fear comes from that. Can I pay the rent? Fear comes from that. Am I gonna die? Of course, fear comes from that. And I go, these fears are the primary things that inhibit the function of the immune system. A human is a community of 50 trillion cells. The cells are the living entity. Every day in a normal body, every day, hundreds of billions of cells die every day. If you don't replace those cells, you're gonna die. In our body, we have embryonic cells. They're the same embryonic cells we had when we were in the womb. It replaces the cells that die every day. Whatever picture you hold in your mind, the brain translates that picture into chemistry that complements that picture and puts that chemistry in the blood, and the body responds to the picture in your mind. When you're in love, the brain releases love chemistry, which is like dopamine, pleasure. That's why falling in love, oh, it's so great, it's pleasure. It also releases oxytocin, which bonds you to the source of your love. It releases another chemical, vasopressin, that makes you more attractive to your partner, so that your biology is now, advertising, I'm a healthy, happy person, vasopressin. But the big one is this: growth hormone is released into the blood when you're in love. The chemistry of the body provides extreme health. That's why people, when they fall in love, they glow, they're so healthy, everything's like, oh my God, I love my life. I go, that's chemistry, okay? Now let's just give today's chemistry and fear. A picture of fear in my mind causes stress hormones, cortisol, things like that, and factors that shut down the immune system. They're called cytokines. A cell can be in growth, or a cell can be in protection, but a cell can't be in both at the same time. Growth, I move to a stimulus, like someone I love or something I like, I move to it, and I'm open. I take it in. Love, I want to be open. I want to assimilate it. Joy, I want it open. I want to take it in. And I say, so growth is going to a stimulus, open. I say, what about protection? I go, oh, if there's a stimulus out there that you are in fear of, you don't go to the stimulus, you go away from the stimulus. I say, do you stay open? I say, absolutely not. You close yourself down to protect yourself. Growth, you move to the stimulus. Fear, you move away from the stimulus. Growth, you stay open to take it in. Fear, you close yourself down to protect it. And I go, Our biology is now based on whether we're open to be in love or we're closed because we're in fear. And I say, well, here we are today, ladies and gentlemen. This is the state of fear that is compromising not just your growth and maintenance of your body, but it's shutting off your immune system, opening us to disease. And this is the biggest problem that we have to face is, what is your consciousness? Because your consciousness is going to control the fate of your biology. The first principle of quantum physics is consciousness is creating your life experience. The biology we just talked about is the interface of how consciousness controls the chemistry from the brain, which controls your life experiences, your genetics, your behavior, and the character of your life.
You know, when I go to my doctor, I go to the hospital, I don't hear this from any of the establishments in medicine. I never hear it's all about chemistry and biology, and no one would ever dare say that my feelings about something, that my visualizations in my life might affect my biology. Why is that?
Genetics means genes control the character of your life. Epigenetics is the environment controls the genes. If the genes control your life, that belief system, then by definition, we become victims of our heredity. Epigenetics say, no, this is completely false. The environment and our consciousness is controlling this. And I say, why is it relevant? Well, if you want to change your biology, then change your consciousness. You don't have to change your genes. Let me give you a fact. There's not one gene that causes cancer. There's no such thing as a gene that causes cancer. Genes are correlated with cancer, but they don't cause it. If you're not living in harmony, a so-called oncogene could be engaged, which will make things worse. But if you're living in harmony, there is no gene that is going to take that harmony and make cancer. A child's brain is a computer. In the last trimester, it's operational to the extent that it boots up. But I say you cannot use that computer until you put programs in it. From the last trimester of pregnancy through age 7, the brain is not operating at the higher vibration of consciousness. The brain is operating lower than consciousness. It's a vibration called theta. The brain is in a state of hypnosis through age 7. Whatever the child sees and hears and experiences, it's a download, straight download. That's where the programs come from. And then after age 7, we're engaged with consciousness where we can use those programs. And that is this. So what's the function of the subconscious? Programs. What's the function of the conscious? Creativity. So I say conscious mind is creative. Subconscious mind is habit.